All right, so we're about to get started. Thank you for joining us at the PLT Canada's Maximizing Your Green Job Search. This event will be about an hour. So we would like to introduce some of the members of the PLT Canada team and our wonderful speaker tonight. My name is Jerry Taylor, and I'm the Director of Diversity and Career Pathways. We also have here Maria Chiarella, who is our mentorship and youth programs manager. We also will have Alex Leonard, who is our communications coordinator. And our special guest tonight is Joel Neuheimer, who is the Vice President of International Trade, Transportation, HR, and Corporate Secretary for Forest Products Association of Canada. PLT Canada is a nonprofit initiative of the Sustainable Forestry Initiative. We envision a world that values and benefits from sustainably managed forests and the great outdoors. SFI is an independent nonprofit organization that works in standards, conservation, education, and community to achieve a vision of a world that values and benefits from sustainably managed forests. PLT Canada is committed to using the outdoors to engage youth in learning about the world around them in rural, Indigenous, and urban communities, and in advancing environmental literacy, stewardship, and career pathways using trees and forests as windows to the world. Since 2018, we've placed over 5,000 youth into green jobs across 12 provinces and territories by supporting over 200 employers in the Sustainable Forestry Initiative and Canadian Parks Council networks. In addition to the job placements, we offer high-quality mentorship programming for youth and forest and conservation sector professionals. We provide opportunities for youth to attend networking events, training workshops, and we also offer a wide variety of career resources via our website. In addition to our career programming, we also develop environmental education materials for parents and educators. We currently have 4 free resources available online, and we are adding more soon. PLT Canada has also been delivering the Green Mentor Program for the past 2 years and has supported over 250 mentorship pairs through this program. 91% of the participants rated the program 7 or more out of 10. Before we get started, I just want to touch upon the agenda for tonight. We will learn about opportunities in the forest sector market by Joel Neuheimer. We will also structure and planning your green jobs by Maria Chiarella. We will learn how to create your online brand and LinkedIn 101 by Alex Leonard. And then we will open it up for questions and answers and final remarks, sending it over to Joel.
Thanks very much, Jerry. It's a real pleasure to be here with you for this event. Kudos to Project Learning Tree and SFI for all the incredible work they do, including this space. If you go ahead to the next slide, please. So just a few words really quickly about FPAK. It's the National Association that provides a voice for Canada's wood pulp, paper, and wood fiber-based biomaterials producers nationally and internationally in government, trade, and environmental affairs, and tonight especially green jobs. The next point there is that the industry generates over $75 billion in revenue and $23 billion in GDP and exports $34 billion worth of products to the world each year. We operate in 600 forest communities across Canadian communities, and we directly employ currently 226,000 Canadians across the country. Next slide, please. So this is a look at who pays the bills at FPAK. These member companies with operations right across Canada are members, and so our activities are funded by these member companies, and we're very proud of the work that they do, including the green jobs that they have to offer now and going forward. Next slide, please. So a few things here of interest to you right off the top. We really believe that, I mean, we've had, over 100 years of successful operations making things like 2x4s and pulp and paper, but with the bioproducts that I was talking about there just a moment ago, we're really looking to expand the type of products we make, and I think this is where a lot of the green job opportunities come in. If you look at the salaries that are available in the Canadian forest sector, there's also very good news there. Our average salary in 2020 was $58,648, which is just a little bit more than the average manufacturing salary there. You see in the middle of $57,436, and a bit better also than the industry aggregate average salary of $55,584. So these are good paying jobs. And when you think about, working in some of the rural communities that we work in right across Canada, these kind of compensation is going to take you quite far as compared to, where it would get you in one of the major centers. So I think that's something important to keep in mind here. And I think, given some of these opportunities we're going to explore tonight, I think it's really important that everybody in the industry is an ambassador, reaching out to the people that are part of this webinar and the people that haven't joined us tonight to let people know about the exciting opportunities that exist in our sector. So we're going to explore those a bit more here as we go on tonight. Next slide, please. So hopefully all of you will walk out of this seminar tonight being ambassadors for all the green jobs right across Canada in our sector. This slide looks at employment growth, and with a few exceptions, and I'll just quickly say that the blue graphics there, that's forestry and logging. The brown graphics, that's the wood product manufacturing, and the green graphics, that's the paper manufacturing components of the industry. This gives you a bit of an idea of what to expect in terms of employment growth. So with a few exceptions, we're not really expecting a lot of growth, but there are still significant opportunities that lie ahead, and we'll get into that here in the next couple of slides. Please go ahead. Yeah. So job openings overall, and you'll see why there are as many job openings as there are on this slide here when we look at retirements in a minute. But we are expecting, as the slide tells us here, an average of 5,300 job openings every year between the period 2020 and 2028. So we're expecting some serious job opening opportunities here going forward. And we'll look a little bit more about why that's the case here in the next slide in a moment. And by the way, all these slides are that you see here are sourced from COPS. It's not the COPS you think of down at the donut shop, but it's rather the Canadian Occupational Projection System. So that's something that Stats Canada offers. So that's where these stats come from here. And yeah, so I think we looked at the slide, so we can keep going here. Yeah, this is the last slide. So this is retirements. And you can see with the significant number of retirements that are going to happen here between now and 2028. This is why we see as many openings as we saw there in the previous slide. So we're expecting 47,500 retirements, every year, basically between 2020 and 2028. With an average, overall in that period, it's 47,500. That's an average of 300 per year that we're expecting. So that's one of the reasons why we see as many openings as we do. So as discussed earlier, we see paper manufacturing, wood products manufacturing, forestry, and logging in these slides, but we don't see a lot of these newer jobs that don't show up here that aren't being tracked by Statistics Canada at this point. Hopefully they will get there sooner than later, but keep in mind that there's a lot of jobs here that aren't even being measured right now by Statistics Canada. That's something very important to keep in mind. Please go ahead. So if you're wondering what kind of skilled positions the industry is looking for most at this point, here we see the list. So everything from pipe fitters to power engineers, heavy duty mechanics, electricians, saw filers, a little bit more specific to our sector than other sectors, millwrights, technicians, process controllers, truck drivers. There was a truck driver shortage across Canada before the pandemic, and the pandemic's only intensified that situation. So that's why you see that there. And the last one is IT professionals. Many operations are really looking to fill IT positions at this point. So we'll keep going here in the slides. Just some examples of those green jobs that you don't necessarily see captured right now in those Stats Canada statistics that we were looking at earlier there from COPS. So the first example is Mercer's Mill in Celgar, British Columbia, where they're making bioproducts such as biogas and other industrial chemicals that can replace those made by fossil fuels. So that's the first example I wanted to share with you. Second one there is the Resolute operation in Saint Félicien, Quebec. And that operation is rigged up so that they can provide any heat that they can't use in their own operations that comes from the production processes, and basically share that with an adjacent greenhouse that's used to produce vegetables. So you can see through that example some of the innovative collaboration that's going on based on some of the opportunities that these facilities can provide to some of the the neighbors that they share in the communities where they operate. The last example there is West Fraser's Hinton pulp mill, where they're making lignin that can replace fossil fuel derived chemicals again in things like adhesives and foam insulation. So again, hopefully 3 examples here that can give you a clearer sense of some of the green jobs that are available. And I think we're going to see opportunities like this increase significantly over time. Next slide, please. So we'll look at some of the key groups that we're trying to build up here. The first one is women. Women are currently only make up 17% of our workforce. I mean, of course, this is unacceptable. We need to do much better. And obviously, the industry is very keen to increase this number, and I think has done some good reflection over the last couple of years. What's it going to take to get more women to join the industry? And I think it's really taken some good strides. There's a lot of work still to be done there to welcome more women into the industry, but certainly want to see that number increase going forward. And I think it's through initiatives like the good work that Project Learning Tree does, that more women hopefully are going to be learning about some of the opportunities that are out there, and I think the companies are keen to welcome more women into the industry. You can see there that the good news is there are more women graduating, I think, than we've seen historically from programs like agriculture and conservation and forestry. The conservation one there, I think, is a notable heading because that is an area of operations that is increasing in its sort of volume across the industry as compared to, let's say, when I started my career almost 30 years ago. So I think that's a really significant thing to be aware of as well. The next point there is Indigenous peoples, another group where I think we're looking to get a lot more Indigenous peoples involved in work in the industry, not only as employees, but as partners and business partners in the company's operations right across Canada. So there you see a little statistic about 350,000 Indigenous youth turning 15 between 2016 and 2026. So obviously a part of the key considerations there. Youth, many of you are at the beginning of your careers or nearing the beginning of your careers. Again, kudos to PLT for offering sessions like this to offer more information about what's available out there, and hopefully more youth will be joining the industry here now and the years ahead. The last one, new Canadians. Right now we have about 300,000 to 400,000 new Canadians coming every year. Given the job shortages we have across our industry, and given the job shortages, quite frankly, across all industries in Canada right now, I wouldn't be surprised to see Canada's Immigration Minister, Sean Fraser, look to really up these numbers here, which I think would be a very good thing. So these are some of the, I would say, underrepresented groups currently in our industry that we're looking to invite more of the people in these groups into the industry going forward. So we'll go to the next slide here. What are we doing to publicize the opportunities that are available? Well, if you go to the FPAK website, you can see there examples of what we call our Green Dream bloggers. Every year we run a contest with the companies basically to put forward some of the people, some of the students that are going to be interning at their operations over the summer. And basically these blogs are an opportunity for them to profile the experience they're having working in the industry and working in the communities where they're working. So if you haven't had a chance to check out these Green Dream bloggers, and thanks very much to whoever put the link to the website up in the chat, much appreciated. Go and check out their experiences, and you can hear directly from them on what it was like to work in the industry, whether they were working in forest management operations, silviculture operations, or whether they were working in mills, making some of the products we're talking about here tonight. The other thing is that we really have quite a comprehensive awards program that basically is also trying to shine a spotlight on some of these opportunities that we're talking about here. You know, whether it's the conservation world or whether it's some of these new bioproducts that the industry is making, these awards help us feature the people that are the movers and shakers when it comes to those aspects of the operations. So if you haven't seen, especially any Green Dream bloggers, I encourage you to go and check them out as a follow-up from the session. I think you'll find their stories are very compelling when you have a chance to check that out. Thanks. Next slide, please. I believe this is the final slide of my presentation today. Just wanted to show a few of the key partners here. So of course we see the most important one in the middle of the screen there in the top band, Project Learning Tree, but also on sort of the top level there, we see the Canadian Institute of Forestry. That is a really important organization, a leadership organization, as are all of these organizations, I think, to check out in terms of what they're doing, you know, to contribute to the success of the industry and going forward. The last one there at the top is the Canadian Council of Forest Ministers. Of course, that's all the provincial forest ministers and the federal forest minister, you know, who work to help support the industry. And then on the second line there, we see the first one on the left is the Outland Youth Employment Program, and I think that's a group that's very well known to SFI and Project Learning Tree. Again, if you haven't heard anything about them, please, I encourage you to go and Google them and check them out. They have some great stories as they try to offer up opportunities for Indigenous youth to come in and check out, you know, what is available to in terms of working in our industry. In the middle there, on that second line, we see Women in Wood. Again, lots of exciting stories. I think one of the common threads here in these examples is if you go and check out the stories that these groups have to offer, including Women in Wood, I think there's some really compelling stuff. And so if you're thinking about, well, do I really want to get into the forest industry, the forest sector? Go and check out these stories that are available from groups like this, including Women in Wood. And I think you'll be very, very interested in what you find. The last one there is the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business. And we've already spoken about the importance of partnering more with Indigenous peoples going forward. As I said earlier, not only as just employees of the industry, but also as business partners to help build the success of the sector going forward. So I'm going to cut it off there. I'll look forward to some dialogue here, but thanks again to PLT and SFI for the invite. Really, really exciting to be here with many people who are much younger than me. So always fun to hang out with people who are younger than you because of all the things that you can learn along the way. So looking forward to learning more from all of you tonight. Thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Joel. Let's show some appreciation to Joel in the chat. But yeah, that was such awesome information about the forest market in Canada, and it's really awesome to know that there will be lots of opportunities coming up with great wages. So yeah, thank you so much. So with that, I am going to shift gears a little bit and talk about how to maximize your job search. So now that you know that there are opportunities in the sector, how can you make the most out of it? And I will preface that, you know, searching for a job is hard work, and effective job search can look like a full-time job in terms of the time and commitment that is required. And I've been in that position before, and I'm sure many of you have in the past as well. So throughout that course of your job search, there are going to be ups and downs. You may face rejection, perhaps frustration, and it can be challenging to stay motivated at times. And sometimes you might even want to give up. So I want to share these top tips for you so you know exactly how to stay on track for your job search. So let's start off with a poll. So my colleague is going to put in the chat the Slido link, and then you are going to hop over to and enter the number 259294. And so the question here is, do you know which type of positions and employers you're interested in applying to? You can choose yes, I have a clear idea of the exact position and employers that I'm looking for. You can check out B, somewhat, I know what type of position and employers I'm looking for. And C, no, I have not yet looked into which employers are the best fit for me, and I am unsure what type of position I want to apply for. So again, head over to that Slido and we'll do a quick poll. Or you can also put it in the chat. And it looks like at least one person has said somewhat, which is totally fair. And there we go, we have some more people. Okay, some of them have said they have a clear idea of the exact position. I'll give it a few more seconds. Perfect. So okay, you guys are keeping. All right, awesome. So thank you guys for answering that. And it looks like most of you are in the middle ground. So you know what type of positions you're interested in, but you are not sure how to reach out to them. And that's really great for us to know that as well, because I'll be talking about the importance of targeting your job search. So thank you for participating. So my first tip is to help you tackle the feeling of being overwhelmed and to make a job search plan. So to do this every single day. So don't just start your job search, but make a plan for yourself every day. And this schedule will help you figure out how to best tackle the daunting task in front of you. So this technique can be used both if you're searching for a full-time job or if you are trying to fit your job search around your current job. So look at your daily schedule and find windows of time for the different elements of your job search, and then divide your day into blocks of time. So you might have to get a bit creative if you're busy, but I think all of us can find an hour here or there to work on your job search, either before breakfast, after dinner, or on the weekends. And if you feel like you have endless time because you're currently unemployed, a job search plan might be even more important to help you structure your day and not fall into the Netflix procrastination black hole, which I have done too in the past. So this slide shows an example of a daily routine for a job seeker. This is just to give you an idea of what your day could look like, and it helps provide a starting point and some structure. So basically the day is broken down into key job search tasks. So you have networking. So you plan to follow up with networking contact at various times during the week. And this could be online, face-to-face, or over the phone. You set time aside for research and job search. So you're researching new companies and jobs to apply and to make new contacts. And you also set time to apply to positions. So you draft and review your materials and then submit your applications. So you can also update your LinkedIn profile and other social networking sites that you may be using to expand your network. Make sure to follow up. So follow up on applications or interviews sent the previous week. It's really important to connect with the hiring manager or interviewer directly if possible. Also set time to do interview prep. So prepping for interviews via skill improvement and competency-based interviews. And also have personal time, because that is also really important. So make sure that you're eating right, you're exercising, and that you're having those social connections with family and friends, because that really matters. So again, this is just an example. It is important that we take those key tasks we just talked about and work them into your schedule. And a daily routine is key for productivity, no matter what your circumstances are. And hopefully you can take the principles to make them work for you. My second tip to maximizing your job search is to know what you want to do and to do your research. So this is important, helping you target those jobs that you really want and making the most of your time. So when you start searching for a job, you should spend some time to reflect on what you want. So this means not just what kind of job you want, but the type. So do you want a full-time job? Do you want a part-time job? Are you interested in remote or freelance, or perhaps a combination? You might also want to think about the type of company do you want to work for. Are you interested in working for a nonprofit, an agency, a small company, a large corporation? And lastly, the work style you want. Do you want a traditional 9 to 5? Or do you want alternative hours where you can work later overnight? Do you want to be based out of the office, or do you prefer to work in the field? So again, research can play a big part in helping you find out what you want from a career. And researching potential employers is vital to an effective job search. So this research is going to come in handy in 3 pivotal times during the job search. First, when you're deciding what kind of employer you'd like to work for, and then when you are ready to apply, and finally, when you're interviewing and your knowledge of the company is put to test. And there are many tools to help you with this research, including gathering information from the job post, looking at the organization website. You can also look at recent news and articles. You can also see if anyone in your networks works for that company and they can provide insight. And you can use websites like Indeed or Glassdoor to find out what others are saying about the company. And small distractions can seem pretty harmless, but frequent interruptions can impact your productivity. So the first thing you can do is go back to that first step and plan your day. This structure will help you stay motivated and focused. Also, keep off social media. I know it's really tempting to want to check Instagram or TikTok, but the best tactic is to keep off social media altogether when you're trying to focus. And of course, take breaks. As I mentioned in tip number 1, it's okay to take breaks, but just make sure that you're scheduling them into your day and then do something to keep your mind fresh. So tip 4 is having all of your job search materials and resources organized and ready for the next application. It is important to personalize and customize your application materials for each job you apply to. And remember that a recruiter will only look at your resume for about 30 seconds. You can also create a core cover letter or resume ready for you to tailor for each new job application. Also store these organized in folders, so either on your computer or platforms like Google Drive or Dropbox. And you can use clear naming conventions so you don't mix anything up. And this will make it a lot easier if you need to refer back to different versions in the future. And my last tip is to use your network. And again, I really want to emphasize networking. So as you may have heard, there is a hidden job market, which is a broad term used to describe jobs that aren't posted online or in advertisements. And with around 80% of jobs not advertised, it goes without saying that networking is incredibly valuable during a job search. The right employee referral can increase your chances tenfold of landing the job. And if you're looking to make a career change, your professional network can support you by helping you find connections in the sector. So take the time to make meaningful relationships with those in your professional circles. And if you're interested in more tips for effective networking strategies, I encourage you to sign up for 2 of our upcoming events. We will have the How to Create an Elevator Pitch workshop next week to help create a summary of who you are and help to introduce yourself at future events. And we also invite you to attend our PLT Canada My Green Job Career Fair on February 10th, where we will have employers across Canada talk about the opportunities at their organizations. So those are some really awesome opportunities to network. And lastly, I want to emphasize the importance of mentorship. Mentorship is a great way to expand your networking, but also get insider information from an established professional in the forest and conservation sector. And in fact, Joel is one of our valued mentors as well. So when we open up our applications for our next national cohort, I really hope you apply because it could open new doors. With that, I'm going to pass it over to my wonderful colleague, Alex.
Thank you so much, Maria. I hope everyone has been finding this session to be of value so far. And we got a lot more great information I'm going to be sharing with you, as well as a few more questions on Slido. So I hope you haven't closed that tab if you had it open on your phone or on your computer. So I'm going to be speaking about how you can create a professional online brand, and some of the key concepts that I'm going to be discussing today is about building your LinkedIn profile, how to optimize networking on LinkedIn to get in contact with employers, how to do that in a tactful and a respectful way, as well as how to continue to build leadership on social media, and through that presence, really develop your own voice to become a stronger presence and to give back and to join conversations online. So the first question that I have for everybody is, are you currently using your online presence to market yourself to employers? So A, yes, absolutely, right? Like you're super active. B, somewhat, or I guess B was yes, you're getting there, you're active, but you're just looking for a bit more help. C, you're not quite sure. And D, you really haven't thought about using social media in a professional setting. So you're just here to learn more. So I'll give that another minute to get some polls coming in. There's another questionnaire coming right after this. So definitely keep this open. 16 people. Okay, sweet. So again, think about this, like, what is an online presence, right? Like, where do you have a profile across your social? Okay, perfect. It seems that everyone's kind of leaning towards somewhat. That's it, typically. C is always the safe answer, right? Okay, perfect. So the next question that I have is, what social media platforms are you building your professional self on? So think in terms of this as a platform, right? Any type of media that you have. And this one is really a word bubble. So whatever you answer, acronyms or not, put in your ideas here and it'll essentially create a cloud of where you think that you're building your professional self. And it need not be where you're looking to find employment. Maybe it's where you have a side hustle. Maybe it's where you've connected with employers or people you've asked for advice, like mentors in the past, right? This to me is kind of loosely how I would consider a professional self. Okay, lots of LinkedIn. That's big for sure. That's definitely the elephant in the room. Okay, yeah, or Instagram and Facebook. It's kind of what I was expecting. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Maria. So today I want to chat a bit about the importance of putting your best self forward on social media and understanding that your personal brand can be reflected across wherever you're active online. And I think that this is important because sometimes we may separate ourselves from what we say on Facebook to how we communicate on LinkedIn. And when you're building an online presence, especially a personal brand, you want to make sure that the images you use on one platform are consistent across all those platforms. But you're also being mindful of what it is that you're putting out there, right? And I think that a lot of times we can look at some applications as a form of entertainment when we don't necessarily consider it as a professional platform. Take, for example, SoundCloud, Mixcloud, even Clubhouse, Reddit, right? These are all platforms that I personally have put my podcast on, or I go on to speak and act as a thought leader. And so I want you to reflect on maybe that TikTok account that you just, you're scrolling on, you're not necessarily actively posting on. Can you turn that into a platform where you can put your best self forward? And also think about, where are applications that you're actually growing a following on, but you never thought of how could you turn this into a portfolio that you could show your next employer? So there's something that you're doing, an aesthetic that you've created that you're quite proud of, right? So I think really the takeaway is that you yourself can carry that brand presence wherever you go on social media, but also the flip side of that is that that brand presence and that social media footprint will follow you as well. So be mindful of what you put out online. Okay, so next I'm going to start diving into a lot more about LinkedIn. So for LinkedIn, really right now, it is the place to be building organic reach. LinkedIn right now is like Facebook back in like 2010. It's insane how much organic reach you're getting. So I highly would recommend, if you want to be sticking out to employers, that is the place to be. But keeping in mind that you can build your profile in other ways, and you can rely on those followings in other ways, right? Leading back to your LinkedIn and vice versa, sending people from your LinkedIn network to other areas where you're building your interest and where you're building your voice. And really, when it comes to LinkedIn, it's all about who you know, not what you know. So don't be afraid to reach out, to ask for conversations. People love to talk about themselves. People love to explain how they got to where they are, right? And you would be surprised what one connection request and where that can get you. So it's really important that your chance of finding recruitment and getting a job will be a lot higher if you're building your profile up, but it is going to continue to grow if you're also part of the conversation. It's one thing to just have a polished, up-to-date LinkedIn profile. It will take you much more further if you're also following on the pages of the companies that you want to work at, commenting on their posts, sharing their videos, sharing their content, right? Like that's going to catch their interest. You're going to show up in their notifications, and you'll probably learn a thing or two that you can bring to an interview and when that time comes. So be proactive in your outreach and in your engagement. So now I want to dive into a bit elements about the LinkedIn profiles themselves. So when it comes to banner image, this can be really useful for building a call to action, so a CTA, right? Maybe you want to design something, use Canva, it's super useful to get these templates, and you can be like looking for work in XY field, right? Like you can use that as a place to really build your presence. The other thing to keep in mind is the headline. So I would recommend for headlines to use highlight keywords, really focus on the skills that you know and the skills that you're able to bring that you feel would be relevant for the positions that you're looking for. Another key point here when you look at profiles and you're looking at somebody else is look at their second connections, right? When you're prospecting for future employment opportunities, see if you have any second connections. Second and third connections on LinkedIn are really valuable because it gives you a point of familiarity with that individual. Say, for instance, I was looking to get a job at SFI. I may message Dean and say, oh, hey, I see you know Jennifer Byerly. I'm also connected with Jennifer Byerly, and I see she's doing some great work. I'd love to talk with you and hear about your role, right? Like just that similarity of the name when he sees it in his LinkedIn, it's going to trigger some light bulbs, and he's going to go, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds familiar. Connections, right? And this kind of ties into my next point, your network. Your network is your net worth. So who you know, again, is almost more valuable than what you know. Build that network, continuing to connect with people. Are you going after employees, right? That 500 plus connections is less important now. People don't really pay attention. It used to be more important, and I think that if you don't have 500 connections, people just don't bother with LinkedIn. But I'm telling you, if you're looking to find employers, use LinkedIn's search tools and try and create strong, high-value connections. So another idea that you can use for a banner image is using an eye-catching banner, like the city that you live in, something that's recognizable, like the Toronto, the CN Tower. That's going to show someone right away where you are, position you. Think about the environment. I use nature. For mine, it's related to the ecosystem, which kind of goes to the real profile picture as well, right? You want something clear, ideally neck up. And then particularly within the green jobs environment, I would recommend having some sort of nature, neutral nature behind you. Some of the new features that LinkedIn's added to profiles is you can now add your pronouns. That's in the more setting there that the pro tips is pointing to. But you can also add pronunciation of your name, and that's only available through the LinkedIn mobile app. But you can create a pronunciation of your name, and it gives you 15 seconds. So you can add a little like the name's pronounced Alex Leonard. Please connect with me. I'm looking for XYZ. Right, so use that to your advantage to help make your profile stick out even further. That shows that you're using all of LinkedIn's functions, and it's going to kind of tie into the next few points, which are all about the profile sections and how we can tie these back in to PLT Canada and SFI. So for work experience throughout LinkedIn, as you're adding more content, I'd recommend following the format that you have in your resume. So using those bullet points, feel free to copy it, just make sure that information's up to date, and think about how you can use stats and facts to really back up with quantitative evidence what it is that you've done. What are those achievements, right? And why do they matter? Other recommendation here is that you can actually add media support. So include videos, include examples, and just be mindful that it need not necessarily be media that you've created, as long as it is relevant to the brand. If it's the organization that you volunteered with, for instance, why not include some examples just so it gives your profile more flair, more color, kind of will keep someone there a bit longer to look through and take away from what you've done. For volunteer experience, I would say try and find volunteer opportunities that can contribute to your skill set, and use this experience to apply to grants and scholarships. I think a lot of people are turning away at volunteer experiences. Now it's totally understandable because everyone has school debt and things like this, but understand that that volunteer experience can help give you a network. It can help give you a lot of professional skills that would be hard to come otherwise. And you can rely on that in applying to certain grants, to scholarships if you're a student. And I think that especially in these committees, they look really highly on people who volunteer and go above and beyond. So don't discredit volunteer experience just because you may not necessarily be getting a check. At the end of the day, you can still really find a lot of value in it and build that network, which you never know may lead to other opportunities. Lastly, I just want to mention our mentorship program. If you've not had a mentorship, or if you've not heard of our mentorship program, by all means, definitely add this to your profile. Again, it just adds value to your profile, and you may not have even thought to add it to your LinkedIn, but it gives you credibility, and you can actually link that to PLT Canada or to SFI to show the logo, to create that brand familiarity with a credible organization. So next point is recommendations. So a key point here is don't be afraid to make the ask, right? Who could you ask for a recommendation that's within your network? Maybe it's a professor, maybe it's one of your mentors from PLT Canada, maybe it's an old boss, right? Or an existing boss right now. And the other point for recommendations I'll say is givers gain, right? Try and give more than you receive. I think people on LinkedIn really value that. When I'm looking at profiles, I value that to see how much has this person received recommendations versus how much are they giving them, right? And what is that to you? That like 5 minutes to write a few sentences, that will pay dividends and have a compounding effect where that's creating a positive association with you. So don't be afraid to ask for recommendations and try and give them as well, because that will come back to you in due course. Other thing to mention, and I saw someone do this on their LinkedIn, is there's courses. That's a whole section you can add. And by adding to your courses, it just shows that you're a well-educated individual and may not necessarily reflect everything that you've done. You don't have to put all the courses that you've ever taken at school, but think about what are those courses that you're really proud of, right? Or what are the courses that you've done that really align with the career that you're looking for? And then you can also, as you can see, you can associate those courses back with certain organizations and positions or education experience to help, again, build that credibility and that EAT, otherwise known as expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. So wrapping up my presentation, there's top 3 key takeaways for you to reflect on. Number 1, don't be afraid to make the ask, right? So can you make an ask before you get a job? Asking for the job at the end of the interview, will you hire me, right? Don't just do the interview and then leave. Can you make the ask during a job? Asking for a raise, asking for new opportunities, asking to take on more work, right? Like all of those are really valuable. Can you make the ask after a job, right? Is it a recommendation? Is it a referral? These are all things that I think we hesitate to make the ask because we're afraid of failure, but you won't know until you ask, so take the ask. Second key takeaway is to share your insights and ideas, right? Are you using your talents and your skills for your community? Are you giving back, and are you trying to build a professional brand voice online? Are you contributing to the world, or are you consuming it? So reflect on that. And lastly, don't wish work. Don't say, show. Don't promise, prove. Are you in motion or are you in action? The distinction here is from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, and I really like this. But we can often be in motion where we're just learning and reading and practicing, but we're not actually taking the action to do the thing. So I want to challenge you, everyone today, go and take action on what you've learned from this webinar. Whether you're updating your LinkedIn or you're messaging someone for a recommendation or referral, right? Like, do something with what you're learning, because that is how you solidify it into long-term memory. And that's how you really are going to improve, by taking that leap. So thanks everyone for listening. I'll pass it back to Maria to wrap us up.
Thank you so much, Alex. I always learn so much from you, and as always, I'm so grateful to have you on the team. Before we get into the Q&A section of today's webinar, I just want to mention that we will be sending you up some follow-up resources in an email. So you will receive our resume and cover letter templates, our Green Career fact sheets, our SMART Goals online course, as well as the recording of today's webinar. So with that, I'll pass it over to Jerry.
Hi, at this time, we are opening up the webinar for questions and answers. Please feel free to unmute yourself or place your questions in the chat.
Jerry, I just want to add one more thing. We shared a LinkedIn SSI score ranker. So just a bit of clarity, I forgot, I included the link, but I didn't have a slide on it. But that's a really useful link for people as you're building your LinkedIn profile. It's a free tool that LinkedIn provides that gives your profile a score relative to other people in this sector, that's using AI algorithms to get an analysis of what sector you're in. So based on your education, your previous work experience. And so as you slowly start to improve your profile and add things that may be hard to quantify, is this working? Am I getting more referrals? Am I getting more opportunities? This can actually put a quantitative number on that performance, and it will help measure your profile on 4 different categories. So definitely check that link out, but that's what the LinkedIn SSI score ranker is.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. And then, yes,
sorry.
we have one question. So Thomas is asking if the webinar will be posted onto PLT Canada on My Resources. Yes, we'll be uploading the recording onto the mentorship dashboard.
I just saw a question in the chat about how do you gain a mentor and how do you approach a mentor. I believe in mentorship. I think that is one of the reasons why I've had many job opportunities from having a mentor. So I think honestly, the best way is to schedule some time to speak to that person and first find out, do they have time in their schedule? Share with them your goals that you would like to achieve. And I will be honest with you, like 9 times out of 10, I've never had anybody deny that they don't want to be my mentor, and they were very busy people. But I think that it is important that taking that initiative. So it could be first sending an email, hello, I would like to spend some time with you just to learn a little bit more about your job and your career, and just take the time to let them know your passions. And through that, people are very open to share their network with you. And because of your urgency, they're willing to give you their time. So I think just putting yourself out there is the first step. So just setting up a conversation.
Yeah, if I can just add to what Jerry just said there, you can also join the Project Learning Tree mentorship program. It was referenced that I'm a mentor. I'm on my second journey as a mentor, and really getting a tremendous amount out of it, learning a lot from the mentees I'm working with. And just a quick shout out to Megan Doan, who I'm working with in this current round. It's great you're able to join this evening, Megan. Thanks for joining.
So there's another question from Mitchell, and they're wondering, is 3 interviews and 1 job offer typical for about 100 sent applications to jobs I'm recently well qualified for? Just wondering if I need to be applying to a lot more jobs.
I'm going to give you my advice as a career counselor and coordinator. I tell people to apply for jobs like it's a full-time job. So just continue to apply. I know it depends on your time, but let's say if you're not working or you're currently unemployed, you should be pushing out about 5 applications a day, especially if you have a skeleton or a core cover letter. A lot of times, what I've noticed in doing career exploration with people, they don't have a cover letter. And yes, you have a great resume, but your cover letter really sells the story. So I think trying to push out at least 5 a day. If you are a full-time employer or employee, I love to say about 2 a day would be great, but it's a full-time job. So work it like you're working a job. That's why the scheduling is very important. But just beef it up a little bit. And it's typical for people to apply for like 3 jobs and get 1 call back. But I would just keep on at least getting into the practice of how to apply for a job, tightening up your interview skills. So just use all of those opportunities as a way to practice on your skills. Do you have any more questions?
I see, Mirna, you have your hand up.
Yeah, so I have a question for you, Alex. First of all, thank you so much. That was very useful. My question is for all participants today. Would it help if they add on their LinkedIn profiles the languages they speak? I'm going to just say this question in French really quick and then you can answer. Donc, je viens de demander à Alex s'il serait utile pour tous les demandeurs d'emploi d'ajouter les langues qu'ils maîtrisent durant leur recherche d'emploi. Thank you, Alex.
Merci, Mirna. Absolument. C'est une bonne idée. So yeah, it's a really good idea. Include languages on your cover letter and on your resume and on your LinkedIn. Honestly, I think that languages is so valuable if you can speak more than 1 language. And even if you're not fluent, right? Like you can put the varying degrees. So I speak conversational French. I have that on my LinkedIn. I also speak partial Sinhalese and some Khmer. So I have that also on my LinkedIn from my time having traveled to Sri Lanka and Cambodia, respectfully. And I just think that it adds a character, it adds a quality to your profile. And I think that sometimes we are more self-conscious about things that we don't want to publicize, but own it. Like this is your personal brand. Like you should be putting as much as you can to help yourself stick out. So don't hold anything back. Just share all the good stuff.
Alex, I would like to also chime in real quick. I think having languages on your LinkedIn is very important because you do not always know companies' needs for translation. And I've seen oftentimes that's been a way into a door just by being able to speak a language that the company does not have access to. So I think always include as much information that will make you a valuable candidate. Mm-hmm.
So I want to, and thanks, Jerry. I think that's a really, really good point that it may not necessarily be in the job application that they're looking for a bilingual or someone who can speak a specific language, but I think it's only going to add than take something away. See, Jacob asked, how exactly do you make a core cover letter rather than a specific one for a job? Good question, Jacob. I would say from my experience, a core cover letter is one that is really catered to that position. You're not writing to whom it may concern, right? Like you're writing to the person and essentially the decision makers. And the decision makers are often the director or the VP in the department that you're interested. So is that conservation? Is it communications? Is it something more technical, right? You'd also want to write it to the HR, head of HR, or whatever that is, the VP director. It really depends on the seniority relative to the size of the company, but just the more specific you can make it so that they know this isn't a generic cover letter. Pulling especially keywords that you see on the job application and adding those to your cover letter is also a really valuable resource and tactic. I'd also say to Mitchell's question earlier, or Mitchell's question, even to reduce the amount of job applications you're sending out, and say instead of sending 10, pick 5, and then of those 5, connect with like employees from those 5 companies, right? So double down on the 5 you really want, as opposed to messaging 10 with 5 you maybe would be okay to take and like message employees at the organization. And I think you will see a greater result from doing that tactic, relying on increasing your LinkedIn profile and connecting with people through LinkedIn as well.
So I think when we're talking about your core cover letter, it's just certain components that need to be in your cover letter. So an introduction, how did you find out about the job? So when I'm saying like set up your skeleton, you will just fill in like a template and then personalize what, in like the first paragraph will describe your educational attainment, how you found out about the job. The second paragraph describes, based on what you review in that specific job responsibilities and duties, is where you will add in the skills that you bring to the table that actually match those responsibilities and duties that they're requesting in this job and what experience you have. And then from there, the ending will always be the same. This is what I bring to the table, and highlighting that and how they can contact you. And then that's how I pretty much tailor my cover letter. I've had the same cover letter for 10 years. I just update it based on the job, who it's going to, some specificities of that specific position, so that you can add, like Alex was saying, you have to make it very personal to that job, but it doesn't mean rewrite a whole cover letter every time. By no means. Like I've said, I've had the same cover letter for 10 years. I literally just plug and play and move around different structures. But I always tell people, save your cover letters, because you will find out, like in certain jobs, you know that most of your jobs will only be conservation. So there's specific conservation words that will be in that. There may be some, like I had some where I was in public health, but I wanted to be a barista at Starbucks because I needed some extra money. That looked totally different, but it still had that same common structure. And we can share some tips on that as well, because I think it's important that you're able to write a solid cover letter.
So I think we'll have time for maybe one more question from Holly, and then we'll wrap it up. So Holly's question is, she's had a hard time providing applications with work references. A lot of jobs require 3 or more references, but I am only able to provide 2 references. Any advice on job references?
Okay, so Holly, I have a question. Do you have any professors that may be able to provide you a reference? Because they want to see your work ethic. So maybe you haven't had that many jobs, you have 2 jobs, but you have a professor that you've completed a research paper for, you worked very closely with the professor, or an internship, a place that you volunteered at. They all show your professional integrity and your work ethic. They will also, in some jobs, will allow you to have a personal reference. So I would just check with the company to see what the requirements for your references are. But I've definitely used professors because they've seen me in times of stress. They've also seen the productivity of my work. So I think don't discount your educators or people you volunteered with, or your mentor. Joel explains that. He's a great example of how his mentee could use that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. The volunteering example, I think, is equally as powerful, because you can be doing any number of things in a volunteer role, managing budgets, managing people. You could be making presentations where you talk up your presentation skills, your communication skills. So be creative and think outside the box, and take advantage of all your experiences, regardless of whether or not you got paid to do what the experience is related to.
Thank you. So I just want to mention up some upcoming events. So today we had the Maximizing Your Green Job Search webinar. Next week, we are going to be having the PLT Canada How to Create a Personal Elevator Pitch. And on February 10th, we are going to be hosting the My Green Job Career Fair. So again, all of really awesome opportunities to network, meet new people, and find new job opportunities. So with that, I thank you so much for coming today. I hope you learned something new, and we hope to see you at future events. And a big shout out to Joel for participating in today's webinar as well. Thank you, everyone. And for the folks that are attending the National Cohort Mentee Check-in, we'll be starting in a few minutes. So just stay put. But everybody else, thank you for coming, and I'll see you at the next event. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks. Have a good rest of the day.
You too. Bye, Joel.
If you would like a work experience in the forest and conservation sector, or would like to learn about our mentorship program and career resources, visit pltcanada.org.